You find a woman weeping over a man she once loved, and by morning, she's laughing in the mirror, straightening her blouse, eyes dry like no storm ever passed through her body. You wonder how she forgot, how she reset, how the love that broke your chest into glass became a flick of dust in hers. But the truth you've buried is worse. She never reset. She replaced, not the man, the memory. She rewired the scene, rewrote her role, rerouted the pain into something cleaner, more survivable. You stayed inside the ache. She burned the theater down. You think she forgot you? She didn't. She undid you. And now, you feel it, that sick pressure in your stomach, that silent scream in your bones. She severed herself while you clung. She turned attachment into disguise, and she smiled as you drowned. If this whisper already knows, you let it echo. Like the video. Leave your shadow in the comments. Subscribe, and stay near the silence. She does not detach, she replaces. Her healing is a performance of forgetting, not an act of love. You think she left you because the love died. You think she had to choose herself. You think she moved on. But these are words you were fed to preserve your ego, to stop you from staring into the real theater, the private ritual where she does not grieve you, but reassigns you. A woman's detachment is not death. It is substitution. She slips out of your memory like silk through an open palm, not by mourning you, but by finding another skin to wear where yours used to be. You didn't notice the moment she replaced you. It was not when she stopped texting, not when she began speaking in colder tones, not when she walked away. It was when she first rehearsed her new face, the one she would wear for the next man, the one that had no room for your fingerprints. She tried it on in silence, in front of a mirror, in the middle of the night while you were asleep, dreaming she still belonged to you. The substitution began before the separation, and you were never invited to the casting. You asked for closure, but there is none, because she isn't holding the script anymore. She changed genres. You became a character in a story she no longer reads. Your love is now a chapter she tore out, not because it hurt her to keep, but because it didn't match the mood of her next performance. She didn't forget you. She invented someone else more useful, someone who hurt her more, or less, or differently depending on what the next audience needed. You became a symbol in her diary, not a man, a motif, a shadow. The truth is grotesque in her internal stage. You were recast in your own memory. She replays the moment you screamed at her, though you never raised your voice. She remembers the emotional starvation, though you never withheld. She re-edits the betrayal, though you stayed. And you cannot correct her. She doesn't listen to ghosts. You think she's healing. She is not. She's editing. The raw tape is buried somewhere, stitched over by newer reels. Her tears are real, but rehearsed. Her piece is plastic smooth, molded, photo ready. You remained in the ruins, clinging to the burning structure, believing she might return to help you rebuild. She walked away with the blueprints and designed a new house, same walls, different furniture, and another man now sleeps where you once breathed. You wonder how she could be so cold, but she's not. She is strategic. This is not cruelty, it is adaptation. Her soul has a mechanism you don't. To survive the unbearable, she forgets selectively. To love again, she must kill the last version of herself that loved you. And in doing so, you die with her. But your body still remembers. That's the tragedy of being the one who stayed you rot in clarity while she thrives in reinvention. You recall the night she cried in your arms, the way her fingers curled into your chest when she was afraid, the tremble in her lip when she whispered, "Don't leave me." You remember everything. She remembers nothing by choice, because memory, to her, is utility. She keeps what serves the story, deletes what doesn't. It is not deceit. It is survival. Women do not recover through reflection, they recover through deletion. You called it closure. She called it distortion. And now, you haunt her through a version of yourself that never existed. You think she healed faster because she's stronger, but the truth is darker. She never dug through the pain, she discarded the shovel. She did not rebuild her heart. She bought a new wardrobe for it. She wears love like clothing, fresh fabric for each season, shedding what no longer flatters. Meanwhile, you sit naked in the cold. You ask yourself, did it mean nothing to her? No. It meant enough that she couldn't keep it. That's why she buried it under so many performances. That's why she repainted the scenes. You were not meaningless. You were too heavy. And she is taught by mother, by media, by myth, that to stay desirable, she must be light, clean, new. And to be new, she must erase you. You were not replaced by another man. You were replaced by a different self. One who never met you. One who never had to feel what she felt in your arms. One who doesn't carry the guilt of how she left. And now, when you look at her smiling, radiant, adored, you're not seeing her joy. You're seeing the brilliance of forgetting. But forgetting, for her, is not absence. It is active. It is rehearsed. A daily ritual of detachment. She doesn't cry because she already buried the one who would. She doesn't apologize because she no longer identifies with the one who caused the wound. And when she sees you, she sees a stranger grieving someone she can't remember being. You think you knew her, but you knew only the version of her who needed you. Once that version expired, so did your place in her psyche. She did not move on, she dissolved. Into a shape you no longer recognize. Into a language you can no longer speak. Her detachment is not coldness, it is alchemy. The transformation of pain into performance. Grief into glamour, memory into myth. And you still ask, how could she love you, then leave you so easily? Because she didn't leave you. She left herself. And you were just still holding her hand when she walked out. You loved the ghost. She became the actress. You wrote letters to a soul that no longer receives mail, and somewhere, in your worst hours, you still believe she'll open the door and remember the script. But the script is gone. You're performing a tragedy. She's moved on to a romance, and you're still screaming lines from a play no one is watching. That is why you suffer, not because she forgot, but because she rewrote, and you remained the original draft. Every woman stores her wound in the image of her mother, and when she leaves you, she is fleeing that reflection, not your face. She did not fall out of love with you. She fell back into the mirror where her mother once lived. You mistook her silence for indifference. But it was a ritual, the same ritual her mother performed before closing the bedroom door, before washing the dishes in silence, before leaving the table mid-argument and never returning to finish the sentence. The woman you loved was not leaving you. She was returning to the cold architecture of a blueprint written by someone else. You just happened to be standing where her pain had been buried. You think she saw you, but she was always looking through you, past you, into the woman who first taught her how to disappear. When she flinched at your affection, it wasn't you she feared. It was the memory of warm hands turning cold overnight, of lullabies curdling into lectures, of being told she was too much to love unless she folded into something smaller. You loved a woman still trapped in the silent discipline of a mother's disappointment. You called it independence, but it was exile, practiced. Her mother whispered through her mouth every time she said, "I'm fine." It wasn't truth, it was a spell, a survival chant, a door slamming behind her own need. You watched her close her heart like a drawer, and she smiled while doing it, as if that made it better. But that smile, it wasn't for you. It was a replica, a performance she learned watching the woman who raised her fake her way through affection. When she left, she wasn't running from you. She was escaping the version of herself she became with you, the version that still hoped love could feel safe. But that version was too fragile, too alive, too dependent. And her mother had taught her, whether through words or silence, that dependence invites destruction, that needing someone is the first step to being abandoned. And so, before you could abandon her, she vanished. First in tone, then in presence, then in body. You were mourning a woman who preemptively grieved you before you had even sinned. You thought she was angry at you, but she was reliving something much older, much colder, a disappointment she couldn't express to the woman who first made her feel replaceable. You were merely a stage, a repetition, a symbol. When you said, "I'll never leave," she heard just like your father did. When you said, "You're everything to me," she heard, "You're too much for me." When you looked into her eyes, she didn't see your face. She saw her mother's flickering behind your promises like a broken film reel. You were not enough to save her, not because you lacked love, but because she had already learned to disqualify it. Your presence was never stronger than the echo. You never touched her raw, only the armor she forged to protect the wound she stopped naming. Her withdrawal was not punishment. It was prevention. If she stayed, she might need you. If she needed you, she might cry. And if she cried, she might have to admit she never learned how to be held without disappearing. She studied her mother's silence like scripture. She learned that emotion is currency and withholding is control. So when she smiled through your apology, when she nodded through your confusion, when she calmly left without rage that wasn't maturity, that was mimicry. You loved a woman still haunted by the girl she was told to outgrow. You noticed it in fragments, the way she never let you see her break, the way she made every soft moment feel like a negotiation, the way she accused you of things you hadn't done, not because you were guilty, but because her memory was a courtroom and her mother had already set the verdict. She projected wounds onto your skin because her own was too numb to trace anymore. You became the villain in her autobiography, not because you were cruel, but because the plot demanded it. You think she forgot her past, but it moved with her. It dressed itself in new clothes, found new names, and you became another chapter in the novel her mother started. You tried to be different, kinder, gentler, but that's not what she needed. She needed you to become cruel so she could justify leaving without grief, so she could say, "See, they're all the same," so she could return to herself unshaken, unexposed, intact. But inside, she was collapsing. Not from heartbreak, from repetition. She had become the thing she feared, the woman who walks away while smiling, the woman who hides her tears to remain in control, the woman who punishes vulnerability to prove strength. And when she looked in the mirror, she didn't see you anymore. She saw her mother's smirk behind her own lips, and that was the final betrayal. You loved her as she was, but she could not love herself without reinventing. And reinvention required rupture. She couldn't stay with you and still become someone else. So she turned her back not on your love, but on the mirror. She shattered it, and with it, you. Not because you were a mistake, but because you were a reflection of the part she wanted to erase. You became an exorcism, not a partner. She left to reclaim a self she never had permission to be. But that self had no place for you, because you loved the version of her that still believed in softness, that still believed someone could stay. But she no longer wanted to be soft, or to stay. She wanted to become untouchable, and in her world, love is a leash. So she cut it before it pulled too tight. She didn't leave you for someone better. She left you for someone safer herself, alone, unreachable. She left the mirror that kept repeating the same mother-shaped wound, and you were the last shard in that glass, the final reflection, the final misrecognition, and now you wonder why you still ache, why you still see her in doorways, hear her in songs. But you're not missing her. You're missing the woman she once imagined she could be with you. The woman who almost broke the cycle. The woman who almost believed in tenderness. But that version died, not because of you, because of the mirror. The mirror collapsed, and you were standing inside it. The one who remembers suffers. The one who rewrites survives. That is why she walks free, and you rot inside your memory. You think you're noble because you remember, but memory, for you, is a disease, not devotion. You drag her ghost through every hallway, hoping she'll turn and see what she left behind. But she won't. She can't. Because while you wander the ruins, tracing the shape of the fire, she walks in clean light, unbothered, in shoes that don't know ash. You remember because you still love. She forgets because she needs to survive. In the deep, rotting corner of your mind, there is a shrine. Every moment she smiled, every sigh against your neck, every fight you thought you could fix. You've sealed them in glass jars, perfectly preserved, but that's not love. That's self-destruction. You are feeding yourself poisons labeled truth. She left, but you stayed. And now the memory is a chain you keep polishing instead of breaking. You thought healing meant holding on. But Freud whispers otherwise. The unconscious is a battlefield of forgetting. Those who survive are not the strongest, they are the ones who cheat the rules of memory. The mind does not crave truth, it craves stability. And if truth threatens that balance, it is exiled. This is what she did, not with malice, with instinct. You remain bound to her image because your unconscious believes pain has meaning. Hers does not. It is trash. It is swept into corners, masked by new pleasures, rewritten in new skin. You see her photos now smiling, reborn. You wonder how she can laugh when you still wake in cold sweat, tasting her name. But her smile is not joy, it is anesthesia. The self that mourned you is locked in a room she no longer enters. She calls it growth, but it is a burial, and you are the corpse. Your memory is accurate. That's the horror. You remember the exact shirt she wore when she said she loved you, the tilt of her chin when she doubted it, the flicker of rage in her eyes when you asked her to stay. Every detail is a knife, and you keep turning them over in your gut, hoping the bleeding means she still exists somewhere. But she does not. You are the only one still speaking the language of a dead connection. The unconscious doesn't deal in justice, it deals in necessity. Her mind has exiled you because keeping you would destroy her continuity. To wake up every day knowing she once needed someone truly needed is a threat. So she rewrote the story. She needed someone once, but he betrayed her. He suffocated her. He wasn't right. That is safer than admitting she left someone who loved her when she was too wounded to believe it. She couldn't forgive herself, so she didn't. She forgot instead. You want her to remember. You think it would make her ache. Maybe reach for the phone, whisper I made a mistake. But that is your fantasy, not her truth. If she remembered with clarity, she would have to confront the abyss inside her. The one that says, I left something good because I didn't know how to feel safe inside it. And that abyss is unacceptable. So she walks around it, smiles past it, builds new myths. Meanwhile, you sit beside your own abyss and name every stone. You remember her laugh at 2 a.m. She remembers your silence during an argument you didn't even notice. You remember her hand trembling when she reached for yours. She remembers your jaw clenched in some forgotten moment of tension. The memory has been split, not erased, but hers has been groomed, yours has been infected. She prunes, you bleed. And here's the cruelty: the unconscious punishes the one who clings to truth. You carry the full weight of what happened unedited, unfiltered, and that is why you suffer. Your dreams replay the reality, hers erase it. In this game, honesty is not rewarded, it is tortured. You were honest in love, you were present. You remember because you meant it. That is why it haunts you, and that is why she floats, not because she is wiser, but because she has buried the evidence. You walk through the crime scene daily. She has built a mall over it. There's a part of you that wants revenge, not in violence in memory. You want her to wake up one day, breathless, aching, remembering the sound of your voice when she first said goodbye. But that's the flaw. She won't. Her survival depends on forgetting you before you even fully left her arms. She started the forgetting mid-embrace. You thought she was still with you, but she was already recoding you into something more disposable, something she could grieve quickly, then deny ever needing. The unconscious does not wait. It acts in self-defense. Hers defended her with selective amnesia. Yours betrayed you with preservation. You kept everything, even the pain, especially the pain, because somewhere you believed that if the wound stayed open long enough, she might return to close it. But the wound was never hers to close. It became yours when she chose forgetting over forgiveness. You call her selfish? Maybe. But that's irrelevant. The unconscious doesn't care about morality. It only cares about what works. For her, forgetting worked. For you, it didn't. And so, you suffer. Not because she was cruel, but because your mind refused to adapt the way hers did. You carry her memory like a shrine. You light candles of old texts, whisper prayers to old smiles, kneel before the altar of what could have been. She doesn't. She left the church. She's dancing in the rain. Her shoes are dry now. Yours are soaked with the prayers you never stopped saying. But here's the final twist: she's not the villain. Neither are you. You are the rememberer. She is the survivor. In the architecture of the unconscious, both roles are tragic. She lives a new life built on lies that keep her upright. You live an old life built on truths that keep you shattered. Neither is free. And when you lie awake tonight, you'll still whisper her name like a spell that never worked. You'll hope, somewhere, she flinched at it, but she didn't. The unconscious punishes the rememberer, and tonight, again, you will serve your sentence. There is a hallway in your mind with no doors, just mirrors. Each one reflects her face, but slightly different. One smiles too easily. One looks away too soon. One weeps. But you're not in the room. You run from mirror to mirror, asking which one was real, which one loved you, which one stayed. But the mirrors never answer. They only show you yourself remembering. And that is the final cruelty. You were not abandoned. You were remembered, alone.